Hi, how are you tonight? I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. I come to you live every Wednesday night at about 7 o'clock. I try to be on time. Sometimes I make it. Tonight I think I'm right on time. And I come to you with a live stamping class, usually stamping. And let's see, what else do I need to tell you? I've got some couple of things to tell you about when I turn the camera down, and other than that, I guess that's it. You are watching me, just in case you came here by accident, on Roberta's Creative Stampers, and that is a public Facebook group that anyone's welcome to join. Basically, the only rules for joining are that you're nice, that you not insult people or be critical or whatever, and that you're nice, and that you're here because you want to learn something and possibly share something as well. I love when people post the cards that they've been doing or projects that they've worked on in the group. We love to see that. Particularly if you're doing things with Stampin' Up! Products, we like to see it, but not necessarily, because not everybody uses them for everything. I don't even use them for everything. Shh, don't tell. All right, I'm going to put the camera down and we'll get started. Okay, gosh, I almost pushed the button that said finish. That would have been a hoot. That would have meant we were all done here. All right, so this is all of my information, and now, in addition to this, I do have a Facebook page for business that is just called 11 Lakes Stamper. I'm also on YouTube, and that's 11 Lakes Stamper there as well. Here, it's 11 Lakes Stamper Creatives because it's a group. And you can reach me at 11lakesstamper@gmail.com, and you can shop with me currently at www.rcolasino.stampinup.net, which is what's called a, what do we call it? It's a business website set up for us by Stampin' Up! So it's not necessarily a typical website. It's not one that I run myself. It's not a blog. It's just a website where you can buy things, you can see my calendar and see when I have events going on, and so on. All right, so I'm just checking to see that I'm here. Yep, there I am. Okay, great. So again, thank you for joining me. As far as the Facebook page for business goes, that is kind of a little bit confusing right now. I'm being told that I really should start doing my live videos from that page instead of from this group, and then I can transfer the videos later from that page to this group and to my YouTube channel. I'm just a little bit hesitant to do that right now because there's already been some confusion with regard to the in-person classes that I do, because I've started creating those. Hang on. Okay, I've started creating those events on the Facebook page so that it's not just my name, but my business name that's getting out there as well. And I think that has caused some confusion, and I'm hoping that in time that will get cleared up. All right, so what have we got going on? We have one of the best joining specials I have ever seen that I can recall in all the time that I have been a demonstrator. So the joining special offers two options this time, and this is going on for the entire month of November, so you have about 15 more days to do this. So for $35, you can get $125 worth of products. Those $125 worth of products can come from the current mini catalog. They can come from the current annual catalog. And if you need a catalog, please let me know. I have a few annual catalogs left, and I just got a shipment of mini catalogs in, so I have those. They can also be from the last chance list, so it doesn't matter if they're on sale or not. You can use them as part of your startup kit. That's what it's called. And anything that's an exclusive, an online exclusive. The only thing that you can't do, I think, in your startup kit are the pre-order things. But that being said, once you become a demonstrator, you could turn around and order some things from pre-order and get those. It's just an advantage of being a demonstrator that you get your hands on some of those things before everybody else. The other option is to get $189 worth of products, and that's where it's unheard of for $99. I think the best offer I ever remember seeing is $155 worth of products for $99. So this is way up and above that. So this is for the person who wants to get a lot of stuff and is willing to spend $99 plus tax. There is no shipping on your startup kit. And this is for the person who just wants to try out a few things and maybe doesn't want to spend quite that much money. All right, so the ordering deadline for that would be October 31st at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. They are 2 hours behind us, so just keep that in mind. You certainly don't want to get on there to order something and find out that the offer is no longer there. So I would just say don't wait for the very last minute. It's not a good plan. All right, I would love to have you on my team. I'm always trying to grow my team. I have a very small team, but we're a group of really nice ladies. I have had more members in the past, and some have come and gone, some have come back again. And what you really do need to know is that if you join my team, nobody will pressure you to do anything. You most certainly do not need to make videos. You do not need to teach classes. You could be your own customer. You could never sell anything to anybody else, and you could just be your own customer, and you will still make commission on what you sell to yourself, in addition to getting a 20% discount on what you buy for yourself. If you stay on a little bit longer and spend a little bit more, you could get up to 25% off on products that you purchase for yourself. So that's really good to know. All right, no one will bug you to do anything, and you do have to spend a minimum of $300 per quarter, and if you don't, they give you a little extra time to do it, and if you don't make it, you know what, or if you decide not to make it, you just drop. That's all. There's no punishment. There's no phone calls. There's no whatever. Nobody bothers you. And then a few months down the road, whenever, if you decide you'd like to give it a try again and get another startup special, you can do it again. And there's no rules against that. I've had someone who's done that, 2 people who've done that at least twice. All right. So the other thing is the group shipping, which I say launching today, but that's old. It actually launched like a couple of weeks ago. This is so that I can order for you, which initially they were saying you would not be able to do under the new website and whatnot. I can order for you, and I can order for several people at the same time and save a little bit on shipping. I still don't feel like I have all the details completely clear, and I apologize for that. I'm looking for someone from Stampin' Up! To get back to me with a really good way of phrasing it, because I feel like I'm not doing a good job. All right, so that's what we've got going on there. So I woke up this morning feeling a little off kilter. I have maybe a stomach bug. I'm honestly not sure. So I spent a lot of time just starting to do stuff and then feeling like I needed to go back to bed. So it has not been a super productive day for me. But I did decide that I was ready to start dipping my toe into Christmas. And so the Jar of Joy and the Jar Punch, Sweet Jar Builder Punch, go together, not in a, well, yes, I guess you can get them as a bundle now, but the stamp set that I used, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, I don't even know if I have any sample cards out here anymore, was called the Sweet Jar, and you also use this punch, and you could bundle them together. Has this stamp that's the same, but everything else is different. It had cookies and what I kept thinking were jelly beans and different candies and things like that. So it was like sweet things in a jar, and it was more of a friendship-y kind of thing, although there was a Valentine's thing as well. And then this one is pretty much strictly Christmas, okay? Although the May Your Heart Be Filled with Joy, that could certainly be for any time, and sending a jar full of cheer, that could go with the other stamp set, which of course you know I can't find tonight. If you were sending somebody some goodies in a jar, it would be kind of fun to use this maybe even as a tag. So speaking of tags, last week I used the paper tags bundle and made some lovely tags, and I even made a treat holder. I still have that here. And I had some scraps from that sitting on my desk and decided I could probably incorporate that into what I was doing today. And I also thought I could incorporate just a tiny bit of the Snowy Delights bundle. I'm just going to possibly use this little stamp here that has the snowflakes on it. Now the Snowy Delights bundle includes these 3 dies. Okay, there's a larger one, and then there's kind of a medium-sized one, and then there's this smaller, much more detailed one. And it has one large stamp, and I'm pretty sure that that's what these two are for, to cut out that large stamp. And it's got some nice, not particularly Christmas sentiments, which I think is nice. A warm hello, joy to the world, sending you joy and many delights, a winter wish for snowy delights with family, friends, and long peaceful night. And I like this because, not everybody celebrates Christmas. And so this is a nice winter card, and with a birthday sentiment that you probably have in your stash someplace. It could even be a winter birthday card. I forgot, it also comes with one of our favorites. My people who do my classes always love these. These are the Snowy Delights decorative masks. They are numbered and notched, which means they are intended to build one on top of the other, or you could certainly use them individually. I love a good mask, and I can't wait to get started playing with that. Maybe next week we'll play with that. Maybe just the masks, maybe the stamp set. I kind of like to stretch it out a little bit. So there we go. So tonight, though, we're just using the snowflakes. And I really only planned 2 projects because I wasn't even sure if I was going to come to you tonight. Like I said, I just wasn't feeling great. And I decided I would just be better off with 2. The other thing, which I didn't pay attention to at first, is that this Jar of Joy stamp set is what we call 2-step stamping, which can be a little tricky with the red rubber stamps, which we know are going away. But for the photopolymer stamps, not as tricky because you can see through the stamps. So this is my, like a practice sheet, basically, where I did some 2-step stamping. So in this one, the 2 steps is that first I stamped the cookies in pecan pie, and then I inked up another stamp in red, not the bow, I added that later, and stamped around it so that it filled in or highlighted all of those spots, including his bow tie. And I did a pretty decent job. The other one that's a 2-step stamp is the snowman. And the first step is all in black or whatever color you choose to use. And it's basically most of his hat and his round body and his little legs, or arms rather, and these 2 little like snow mountain things. And then you come in with a second stamp, and I chose to use red, and it colors in the band on his hat and colors in his scarf. And on that one, I think I did, where'd it go? Where is it? There we go. I think I did pretty darn well. There's a tiny, tiny space on his hat where I missed, and all I need to do there, I grabbed a red Sharpie, and I'm just going to gently fill that in. A red Sharpie is pretty much the same color as real red. All right, so I fixed that there. And then here's the other one. Like I said, the bow was a separate stamp, and I did pretty well with that one too. Can't complain. And then there's this one, which makes it look like there are ornaments hanging down from the top of the jar, and I used a little wink of Stella and a little bit of paint on those, and these were, like I said, my practices. So my practices went well, which if you believe in Murphy's Law, which I do, since my practices went well, there's a very good chance that everything else won't. So we'll see. These I stamped in, what the heck did I stamp them in? Gray granite, which has a tendency to look the tiniest bit brown. I wasn't sure if I liked that or not. So I went ahead and did my samples in black, I think, except for one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp these. Now, when you have a punch that accompanies a stamp set, you want to take a look at the punch. So the way punches work, if you've never used them before, is that the paper goes in here at the top. All right, so that means that our lid to the jar is going to get stamped up here kind of first, all right? And the bottom of the jar is going to get stamped here. So if I'm stamping the lid separately, like let's say I wanted to stamp the lid or cut out the lid in a different kind of paper or something, I'd want it to be down at the bottom of the paper. If I'm stamping them both out at once, then it doesn't matter, and I want to try to line them up so that it will come out that way. Now, what I've done in the past, which is helpful, is I have taken a punch, especially these builder punches as they're called, and I've just punched out in white. All right, and sometimes I put them in some type of a bag, or I just take a marker and I write on it that I want to save these because I might use these for a template to possibly trace around, although probably not, but just in case. I'll save those. I'll probably put them in a stamp case or something like that. But the thing I really want to save is this piece over here. And I will write on this save. Because now what I can do, if I have a larger block, instead of having this and the top on a separate block, I can grab a larger block. Let's see, here's one. All right, I can grab a larger block, and now, let's make sure I'm in camera because this is a pretty cool trick. Now I can take this stamp and I can stick it right in that like template where I cut that out, and it'll fit right in. And then I can take this one, this part, and actually I need to put it facing down. So I need the flat side facing up. I wasn't thinking about that, and you'll see why in just a second. So I'm just going to kind of jiggle that until I know it's like in place, because it is sticky and it will stick to the glass mat. Now I'm going to take my block and I'm going to peel that up, and I think it's ready to go. It may be a little off because it's stuck to the block, but we'll see. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to ink that up. This is my Memento black ink in a Whisper White, in a Whisper White ink pad that has not been inked with Whisper White. There we go. There are nights when I just think that I'm not making sense. It happens sometimes. What can I tell you? Especially, like I said, I'm just not feeling quite well tonight. Something's a little off somewhere. So now, theoretically, if I did that right, when I put this in to cut it, and if I'm having a hard time reaching it because of the way I cut it, but I didn't want to waste or accidentally cut too much stuff, what I can do is just take a piece of cardstock, or in this case, I'm just taking a double piece of scrap paper, like copy paper, and I'm going to take a piece of Scotch tape and tape this to the back, and some of it will get cut, and that's okay. And I've created myself a little handle. All right, so now I can put that in, and I have a way to wiggle that around and move it a little bit. All right, and so now, theoretically, when I go to punch this, if I line up everything right, I should be able to punch the jar and the lid at the same time because I used that template. And I think that came out pretty well. I'm thinking that maybe the jar and the lid were just a tiny bit far apart, and so I could trim just a little bit off of here, which is no big deal. Our snips are great at trimming like tight things. And then I'll trim a little bit off of here, and it should be just fine. All right, so that's the jar. That's what that looks like. So now let me show you the two-step that I said probably won't work out as well because it worked out well in the sample. All right, so here we're going to get rid of the black so I don't confuse myself. And we are going to get the pecan pie, which I think looks a little bit like the color of a gingerbread man. It's usually a darker brown because of the, the molasses. Anybody ever make gingerbread men? I used to love to make those. I used to make them with my students when I had some young students, and we would make them and sell them to the teachers. The only time I could not make gingerbread cookies or anything with molasses in them was when I was pregnant with my two children. Molasses, the smell of molasses just made me terribly, terribly sick. I have no idea why. There was another teacher who couldn't smell spaghetti sauce, and we were pregnant at the same time. So she had a hard time in the lunchroom because a lot of teachers, I guess, brought leftover spaghetti for lunch. All right, so now we're going to put that one aside, and I'm going to grab this one. And this is the one that I'm going to stamp with the red ink. So let's put that away so I don't confuse myself. I'm having a problem again tonight seeing comments. I don't know why that happens sometimes, but it does. All right, so now normally I would put my head like right here. And as you can see, I can't do that because that's where my camera is and the tripod extends even further out. So if I try to put my head there, I'm going to bump into the camera and make a mess. So I'm going to get as close as I can, but you need to know that you really, when you're doing this, need to be right over this. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that if I try to focus on getting the bow tie right, and then looking over here and over here to make sure that I don't need to like zhuzh it to the right or the left, then I should be okay. And again, if I'm just a tiny bit off, you know what? That's what markers are for. So I think I'm good. Not 100% sure, but I think I'm good. That's actually pretty good. I have no complaints about that. That's pretty good. All right, so that's how you get two-tone. And I suppose if you wanted to do some different colors, you could ink up part of the stamp. But again, remember, we don't have the Stampin' Write markers anymore. Well, we're still selling them, and if you like that type of marker, they're great for journaling and things like that too. Then I would get them, because they're doing away with them, because they honestly don't work as well with the photopolymer stamps as they did with the red rubber stamps. And since we're doing away with the red rubber stamps, they felt they should probably do away with that as well. All right, now today I tried something kind of different too. I wanted to use Wink of Stella on something, and I found that at least one of my Wink of Stella pens was pretty dried out. But I have this, and I think I showed it to you last week or the week before. These are, they're ink slash paints. I'm not sure whether they're more ink or more paint. And we used to sell them. We don't sell them anymore, but you can get them on Amazon. They're called, it says right here, all-purpose ink in frost white and Vegas gold. And I know I had one called champagne, and it's probably kicking around here somewhere. So I shook it up really good. It's got like a little ball in it, like your nail polish does. And when I opened it up, it was all like skinned over on the top and looked a little dried out. So I added some water and some alcohol to it and decided to just use my Wink of Stella pen as a brush. I added a little bit of alcohol to my Wink of Stella pen as well, which helped to kind of clean out whatever was in there so that I could use it until it was completely empty. And now I'm just going to use it as a brush. Now I have brushes, but I don't want to use my good water painters on something like this, because I'm not exactly sure how it will clean up. And if this is just an empty Wink of Stella that I would normally be tossing out anyway, I thought, well, what the heck, right? So this is gold, and I could probably, I'm guessing I would need to put a couple of layers on it to have it look more solid. So you see here where I put it on heavier, it looks a little bit more gold. I also see there's a couple of chunks in there, so I might need to add some more water or alcohol to it to get rid of those chunks, or maybe just shake the heck out of it a little bit more than I did. But you get the idea. So if I wanted not to use metallic paper, or I didn't have any metallic paper, this would be an option. The other option is that I've always got some, like a gold Sharpie or a metallic marker of some other kind, but I almost always have a gold Sharpie, and I have a bronze Sharpie. So those kinds of things can be used for things like this as well. All right, next time I use this, I'll really shake it up good ahead of time, because it will probably be a little bit better. Now the only problem is I can't really touch that where I could if it was ink. Okay, so now getting back to the things that I had sitting on my desk from last week's paper tag class, and you know what's happening now, right? You know that I'm looking for them and that I'm not seeing them. Okay, because they're right in front of me. That's why I didn't see them. So I had some of these, which is like one layer of the tag, and then I had some of these in black. So I ran one through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine in red. So these layer just like this, all right? And I'm not going to put them together yet, because I'm going to put these on here, and maybe if I use tweezers, it'll be okay, even though that's still a little bit wet. We'll see. Or I could use maybe my Take Your Pick tool. Maybe that. We'll see what works. I don't really want to get paint on my putty. I know that sounds a little strange, but all right. So what I'm thinking is to put this here, but then I have to think about a sentiment. So the sentiments in this set are super long sentiments, or Wishing You the Sweetest Christmas, which also might not fit there. But the other thing that I do a lot with my journaling and other things is I will stamp out a sentiment that's really long like this, and then I'll cut it up. And I'll kind of put it, wonky like all over, so you can still read it and you can still tell it was meant to be a sentence, but it just looks a little bit different. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to pop this up. Yeah. I was going to say maybe I should do the stamping first, but I'm going to do the stamping on a separate piece of paper so that I can cut it out, so that I don't need to do that. I know I've told you this before, but I would be talking this through whether you were here or not. That's how I get things done sometimes, is I just have to say it out loud and remind myself to think. I declare for all the world to hear that talking to yourself is not a bad thing. Now, if somebody starts answering you in your head, then you might want to go see your doctor and whatever. But, or if you talk to the cats and they start answering you like in English, then you might want to get some help. But as long as you're not hearing an answer, it's just you talking, trying to think things through, I think it's just fine. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I do have a cat that I swear says no sometimes, but I think it's just, you know, he has a meow that just sounds like no, and when I'm telling him to do something that he doesn't want to do, it's really easy to believe that he's actually saying no. I'm pretty sure he's not. I'm going to put this as close to the bottom as I can get it, and boy, it like just fits on this tag. But it's okay if it hangs over because we're putting this on as sort of a frame / background, all right? So then I just need some scrap basic white. And I'm going to, like I said, I want to save this, although I might redo it because it was a little off. But in the meantime, I'll try to save it. And then I think I'm going to use this really long set that looks like a typewriter type of font. That says, actually it's kind of cool. It says, sending a jar full of cheer. And the word cheer is written in cursive, even though everything else is in print. And I like that. And now that I think about it, you notice how they left extra space through there? So it's possible that they were really thinking that you might cut that up. I'm trying to remember if I saw anybody make any cards with it where it was cut up, and I'm just not sure. Okay, I could use red, but that might be overkill because we've got all that red there. So I think I'll use the Memento Black, which I just stuck my finger in. Yep. So as long as you wipe it off, this is a dry wipe. Even though you can still see it, it's not going to come off anymore. But whenever you're using cardstock, especially white cardstock, you really do want to check and make sure that you have not stuck your finger in it, because it's very upsetting when you look at your work and see your fingerprint on it. Perfect. Wow. I love when that happens. Take my word for it. It does not happen all that often. It just doesn't. All right, so I get out my chamois and clean that up. So I cut my chamois in half, and I put them in these old wood mount stamp cases because I use them in classes. And that way, and I have another package of them so that everybody can have their own, or every 2 people can share them, and they don't really need to be that big. And sometimes if we're making a real mess, we just wash them out in between uses, and that's fine. The place where I have my classes is nice. It has a bathroom right in the private room that we use, so that's kind of cool for washing. All right, so this is the mini cutter that I know I keep telling you can't have because they don't sell it. It was a joining special a couple of years ago, but I did link one at some point that I found on Amazon that is very similar, and that I've heard from people that it works well. So I'm trying to cut it pretty close, because if you're going to cut it up, like I mentioned, you want it to be pretty tightly cut. All right, and I think I want it even tighter than that. Sometimes I come in with my scissors, and while you might think that you can't get a straight line with the scissors, if you're actually cutting against text like this, it makes it easier to make the line straight. Does it have to be perfect? No, especially since we're cutting these up into small sections. Nobody's going to notice if they're not straight unless they're totally wonky. All right, I'm going to get close to the ends here too, and close to that end. And then I'm going to come around here. And if you've got a letter that hangs down like a G or a Y, just be careful not to start too far in so that you would end up almost cutting that off. That would not be good. So I hope that everybody is doing well. I actually got my pool covered today. I know it sounds kind of late. I think the end of September is the latest I've ever closed it. But so many people, they told me, were keeping their pools open because of the nicer weather that we've had. And some people may have heated pools. I do not. That when I called them, they just kind of laughed and they said, well, it's going to be a while before we can get you in. We've got like a 2-week wait. So they came today. But it was nice for them because it wasn't hot. Lots of times when they come to close the pool or open the pool, it's just a super hot day and the poor guys are out there sweating like crazy. I'm not really thinking about this, and maybe I should, but this is how I'm cutting it up. So sending a jar full of cheer. And to make room, I might even have to cut these down a tiny bit more. But I want to do kind of a dry fit first. Now again, you know what? I am going to go ahead and put this down on here now because some of the letters, the words could hang over. That would not be a big problem, I don't think. So let's do that. All right, you just knew the first bottle I was going to pick up was going to be all plugged up. If you don't use them every single day, they tend to get a little plugged up. And then if you're not careful pushing the pin in, you can push the nozzle all the way into the ink or the glue bottle, which is a major pain in the neck. Because then you've got to dump out the glue to fish it out, and it's not fun. Oh, and you know what I did? Instead of pushing it in, I pulled it all the way out. Okay, so we're going to shove that part way back in there and set it aside for now, and I'm going to find another one and see if this one works. And once you, which I do once in a while, I take, when they get really empty, I rinse them out and I soak the bottles and the tops in some hot soapy water, and then the nozzles fall in really easily. So you do have to be careful, but I still really do like what a nice thin line we get. And it's still not working, so hang on. It went right in. You would think it would be working. I don't know why it's not. It's always something. Always something. Okay. This time it's going to work. There you go. See? But with a thin line like this, it's really hard to get things too goopy. So that's why I like them. And then the two hearts kind of line up, so that's kind of nice. And then I'm just going to press it down. All right, now this would be sending a jar full of cheer. All right, get over here. This would be a time when I think I would use my tweezers. Although it would be easier to pick them up with the Take Your Pick tool. So if I use my tweezers, I can hang on to them until I'm really ready to place them. Okay. So let's see. Sending. And I'm not going to care if it's straight or not, although that one kind of did come out straight. Then the problem is once you make it straight, you feel like you have to make them all straight to match. But I think I can get over that. Well, let's hang on. Let's do the little bit of a dry fit here. You know what? Someone should have said something. You know what I forgot, right? I forgot the lid. All right, so I have to leave room for that. I can put it a little bit lower down, maybe. Okay, so sending a jar. Yeah, I don't think there's enough room here to be wonky, to tell you the truth. If the word sending were smaller, I could have gotten away with that. But because it isn't smaller, it's kind of hard to. So I guess I'm going to have to make it straight, in which case I could have just cut this into 2 pieces and it would have been okay, but that's all right. Yep. Come on. There we go. All right. Oh, Okay, I see two. I see Adam is here. Hi, Adam. Nice to see you. It's been a while. And hello, Amy. I did have a nice birthday, Amy. Thank you. I rarely get to celebrate my birthday on my birthday just because, you know, of my three kids with their schedules, the chances of getting a night that happens to be my birthday when they're also all off. In fact, my daughter-in-law could not join us because she had to work. So my son and daughter and I went out to a really nice Mexican restaurant in Canandaigua that I had been to before. But my son's food was really hot, and he had a hard time with it. Mine was spicy, but it wasn't terribly hot. And my daughter ordered something that she knew wasn't going to be hot. So, although she doesn't mind a little spicy. When I heated my leftovers up the next day, though, oh my gosh, they were crazy hot. I don't know how that happens, but it did. All right, so I can't put the top where it really should be. So what I'm going to do is make a thin bead of glue right at the very, very top. And then I'm going to take, not even going to bother with a mini dimensional, I'm just going to take like a piece off of the edge of this, just the tiniest piece. And I'm going to use that on the, like the little knob. That's the word I'm looking for, the little knob on the jar, so that it won't like hang down. So this will get glued here, and then this will just kind of be the same height because I popped it up. There you go. And I think you can see a little bit of that sparkle. It's so hard to tell. I've got several different lights in here. I've got 5 different bulbs on one lamp, and then I've got the ring light, but sometimes I don't know if you can see the sparkle or not. But anyway, that's just a tag, and that would be great to hang on to a Christmas present. This might also be a good time to tell you that I am doing a craft show at the Yorkshire Inn. It used to be just called the York Inn. It's a bed and breakfast and restaurant in Phelps, New York, so you'd have to live nearby, obviously. On Saturday, November 22nd, from 10 a.m. to, I think it is 2 p.m., and I'm planning, assuming I can get my you-know-what together, I'm planning on having, aside from cards and journals, I'm planning on making up some packages of tags, Christmas tags and non-Christmas tags. So you'd get like 6 cards or 6 tags in a bag for like, I don't know, $3 or $4. All right, so I'll have those too, like I said, assuming I get my act together. All right, so then the next project, which I think will also be the last project, although I did make myself some extras. Whenever you're die cutting stuff or punching stuff, make extras because you know you're going to use them. In fact, I might just make another exact same one of these later on tonight or tomorrow so that I really get started on that bag of tags I was talking about. Okay. So this time I picked it's not gray granite. What's the other one? Not gray granite, not basic gray, smoky slate. That's what it is. I picked a smoky slate card base. The card's going to go that way. And I have Knight of Navy, and we're just going to put that this way. So just a little bit different than your typical card base, all right? And I think what I'm going to do, since I did all these practice jars, is I think I'm going to do one of each of these jars and just kind of have them hanging out here. Maybe I'll need to add a little bit of something that looks like a table, a piece of wood or something, because I hate when things are just floating in space. I know most people don't notice that and they don't mind, but it's one of those things that makes my OCD kick in. Unless if I put the sentiment right under it, then it's kind of like it's sitting on the sentiment and I can deal with that. What can I tell you? We all have our things, right? And that's my thing sometimes. I've mentioned before I volunteer at a local art gallery as a gallery sitter sometimes, and I was there the other day and it was really a slow day. The weather wasn't nice and nobody was coming to visit, and I pulled out these big divided containers where we keep all the things that we use to hang the artwork on the walls, and there were thumbtacks mixed in with nails, mixed in with screws, and I sat down and I sorted them all. I put the screws with the screws and the nails with the nails, and I even sorted the nails by size so that there were long nails. Oh my gosh. It took me like 2 hours to do. And when I told some of the people the next day at the gallery that I had done that, they kind of looked at me like I was crazy. They did. But, you know, it kept me busy, first of all, and I do like to be busy, and there's only so much vacuuming you can do. All right, I need a piece of basic white cardstock, which is over here somewhere. Here we go. And then I am going to go ahead and, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and use this again because it wasn't too bad. So, and I'm going to use the black, I think. Oh, and I didn't wash this, so now I'm getting ink all over my hands. Yep. All right, you know what? Think about this, Roberta. If you did this on a piece of paper instead of on the glass mat, you could wiggle it and it wouldn't stick because it won't stick to paper. You learn something new every day. So Adam, I hope that you and your family are doing well. Josh and Liz and your mom. It's amazing. If somebody had asked me what your sister's name was, I wouldn't have been able to remember it. But because nobody asked me, I remembered. Isn't that strange? Oh, I'm not sure how my brain works, or some days if it works. Oh, this is not Stampin' Up! Cardstock. I don't know what it is or where it came from, but it is not Stampin' Up! Cardstock. Hang on. I'm going to find one that's in a package, and then I'll know it's the right one. I confess, I buy cheap cardstock to use for like printing flyers and things like that because I don't like to use my good cardstock on that and spend the money. So I do buy cheap cardstock for that kind of thing. Here we go. You hear the difference there between that and this, which is just like almost like typewriter paper, but it's cheap cardstock. All right. So where was I? I think it's just as well that I decided to only do 2 things tonight because I think I'm taking just as long to do 2 as I take to do 3 or 4. All right, and there is a lot of stamping here. I probably should have done some of this advanced. I'll be honest with you, throughout the day I kept thinking there is just no way in heck I'm going on and doing a Facebook Live tonight. I just feel terrible. And it got better and better, but by that time I was already like too late to get super prepared. So I had these 2 things prepared ahead of time before I started not feeling so great. All right, so let's see. We're going to go back to doing what we did before. So what did we do before? Let's take a look at that tag. All right, so that was the pecan pie. If we're going to do the gingerbread man again, let's put these scissors away. All right, so we'll do the gingerbread man. And it's so strange looking. Sometimes I can't even figure out what it is. Okay. There we go. And I still have to kind of lean over it. You know, the best thing to do when you're stamping, this is why I sometimes move down to the kitchen. The best thing to do when you're stamping is to stamp standing up because you can really see what you're doing, and to stamp at a place that's counter height. Because if you're working at a regular table and you stand up, then you really have to bend over. And if you're, 20 years old or 30 years old or 40 years old or even 50 years old, that might not be a problem. But when you get to be my age, if you stand bent over too long, guess what? You have trouble getting back up again. It's the way it is. I'm 1 year shy of 70. When I say it out loud, I honest to gosh can't believe it, because while I have trouble standing up if I bend over too long, I honestly do not feel like I'm 70. All right, now I'm just trying to figure out where this goes. Oh, I'm looking for the bow tie. Okay, so you can see, maybe you can see the bow tie in there. It's right up at the top in the middle there. So I'm looking for the bow tie. And I'm going to make sure, or at least try to make sure, that I'm hovering over the bow tie. But then I'm going to look at this part of the star and this part of that cookie or whatever. I think they're all cookies of some kind. Okay, so back over there. You can probably see better than I can. Oh. All right. Oh, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Okay. So that's one jar done. And now, let's see, let's do the snowman. That one was fun to do. Let's do the snowman. Let's clean up the stamps first, though. Hello, Cheryl. How are you? Oh, love the jars. I have to tell you. So this is the other thing. Besides the fact that I can't bend over for too long because then I can't get up, the other issue is that my eyesight is really failing. So yesterday I decided to go renew my driver's license and get an enhanced driver's license, even though I have a passport, just so that I have that. And she said, you want to take your glasses off and see if you can pass the test. Now, it's been 8 years because now you only get your license renewed every 8 years. So 8 years ago, I could see the eye chart without my glasses on. And I said to her, like, I can barely read anymore without the glasses on, so I doubted. She said, well, give it a try. Maybe it'll work. And then you don't have to worry about it because if you have glasses on your license, if it says that you need corrective lenses and you get in an accident or something and for some reason you're not wearing your glasses, it's considered driving without a license. Did you know that? So I said, okay, fine, but it's not going to work. Well, I could actually see it, which makes me concerned, to be honest with you. I can see to drive. I'm perfectly fine to drive. My eye doctor says I'm fine to drive. But I drive past street signs a lot, so if I'm looking for something, I'm like, oh yeah, that was it, and I make a lot of U-turns. But it's just words and not on big, important signs. So anyway, I brought that up because I'm sitting here and I knew it was you, Cheryl, because I could make out the configuration of it because you use a first name and a middle name and a last name. And then I was trying really hard to figure out what it said underneath. And I had to lean way forward to see what was underneath. It's just crazy. All right, so now let's see. I guess I'll go with the red again. So the red is just going to be his scarf and the little like ribbon on his hat. And where is that stamp? I put some of them back to back. Where did that go? Oh, here it is. It's so tiny. Look how tiny that stamp is. Yeah, so that's why I couldn't find it because it's so little. I was looking for something bigger. All right, so you want to position it so that this here is the thing on his hat. And then the circle is his face, but that's hollow, so it won't stamp on his face, and then the rest is the scarf. And I could make the scarf blue or green or any color I wanted, but since the red is already here, I'm just going to be lazy and use it. All right, so now I have to hover over that band on the hat. And I think, yeah, it's okay. But I feel like, well, but maybe that's the part of the scarf that's like wrapping around, so maybe that really is all right. But I was off just the tiniest bit, so I'm going to grab my red Sharpie again and just fill it in where the hat is. There you go. All fixed, no one knows. Now this is where I thought I would use these, but I'm concerned that they're a little big because they really aren't meant to be used in here. And I almost think there was something that came with it. I know there was. Yep, there was. Hang on. There was these little tiny, oh my gosh, these little tiny things. They really look more like dots than snowflakes, but they'll do. All right, so I think I'm going to do those in Balmy Blue. Yeah, I really like the jars too. And when I saw that they came out with another one, a Christmassy one, I was very happy. And because they're not going to be able to carry over a lot of stamps from last year, because a lot of the holiday stamps might have been red rubber, I'm truly hoping that these will carry over. So for those of you who don't know what that means, that just means that they'll be in next year's catalog too. Because when you're a demonstrator and you try not to use things that are retired, although I'm kind of getting over that, I think I want to stamp off once. Hang on. If things don't carry over, then you've got to buy new stuff every year, and sometimes that gets a little pricey. And to be honest, most of my customers don't really mind. It's like I have a few customers who like to buy things, and then I have customers who just like to come to classes too. So they're almost like two totally different groups. Okay, so there we go. So now we have just a tiny bit of snowflake in the jar. Kind of makes me think of like a snow globe, except it's a jar. But you could make a snow globe out of a jar, right? I've seen people do that. What is it that you put in? You put glycerin in it, glycerin and water, so that the stuff comes down slowly. I've never done it myself. Maybe I should give that a try. All right, and then the last one is going to be the ornaments that I showed you on my sample. Nope, not that one. Not that one. Here it is. And I'm going to do those in black, and then I'm going to color them in. And what I did on my sample, I believe, was that I colored them in with some of that paint and a little bit of colored pencil, watercolor pencils. I could also use my blends, but they weren't right there within reach, so lazy me decided not to. All right, now I want these to look like they're kind of attached to the lid of the jar. Oh, that's not good at all, is it? That's not even close to good. All right, just for the heck of it, I'll probably stamp another one, but I always am jealous of those demonstrators who can line up everything perfectly and just do it again and have it come out right. And for the most part, that's not me. Yeah, see, it's too fat and blurry. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to just take a pink Sharpie here, and I always cross it out just in case so I don't accidentally use it. And then I'm going to flip it over to the other side because you can't see through this cardstock. Okay, and I'm going to stamp a new one. I also feel like there's some goop on the edges there. Okay, now you wrote me this whole big long sentence, Cheryl. I think Snow Globe had... Oh yeah, you do. You turn the jar upside down to make a snow globe. That's correct. At least I think so. Yeah, and you wouldn't have a knob. So you're saying you saw somebody made one? Because we had that snow globe stamp set too that was kind of cool, and the snow globe punch, and then there was a snow globe, those you probably can't get anymore, but there was a little snow globe, like a plastic bubble that went over it so that it really looked like a snow globe. That was a couple of years ago, I think. That was kind of cool. But yeah, you could, I'm sure you could do it with this. But I was talking about like a real snow globe. All right, I'm going up a little bit higher, I think, this time, maybe. Look, it happened again. Why is that happening? Because my sample, was just perfect. Ugh. All right. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that, because that's the back of the other one. Okay. Don't know why that's happening. It looks like it's all inked up okay. All right. I think even though I tell people not to rock their stamp, I am going to just rock it that way a little bit just to make sure it's hitting. Just kind of give it a little wiggle. There we go. Shoo! That was a lot like work, huh? Okay, so what I did, like I said, I think I used the colored pencils, but you know what? I'm going to be lazy again. And I'm just going to color those little hearts in with my little red Sharpie because it's right here. You could use your red Stampin' Write markers, you could use your red blends, you could use the ink pad and a blender pen. So many options for coloring things. Okay, so there we go. Then what I think I did, no, you know what I did? I took the crushed curry watercolor pencil. That's what I did. And I kind of colored this in because my goal was to go over it in Wink of Stella, and that's when I discovered that my Wink was dry or empty, and so it wasn't working, and so that's when I got out the other thing. And then really, I could do the same here, but for this one, I think is when I started using the Wink of Stella brush with the paint on it. Although I added a tiny bit of alcohol to my Wink of Stella pen and gave it a good shake. So maybe if I go over it, I can just do that with the Wink of Stella. Let's give it a shake and see what happens. It's probably still got some of that paint on it, but I want to know that Wink of Stella is coming out. Oh, something's coming out. for sure something is coming out. So let's see. Oh yeah, so there is some wink left in my pen. So that's another trick, you know, because just like with anything else, when it dries up, there's usually some stuck on the sides. You know, it's like when your ketchup bottle dries up, right? There's still some stuck on the sides, and you add a little water and give it a shake. That's what we do in our family. I know, some people would just say toss it, but I rinse it out to recycle it anyway, so I might as well do that. And then you can get just a little bit more out of it. And that one, I don't know if I want to make that gold. And I don't have any, let's see, this one is not really silver. It's kind of, it's called white, but I don't really see it as being white. So let's just see what happens. I didn't do that the last time, but let's see. I'm just going to get some off the side there. Yeah, so you know what? It's like a translucent white, so it's almost like Wink of Stella. So you're going to get some shine on it, but that's about it. You're really not going to see white. I think I added a touch of alcohol to this one too. Although I don't know why I added alcohol, because these are water-based inks, I believe. But it worked, so whatever. And then I'm just going to turn that around and try to get something on all of that. Again, not that anybody's really going to notice because it's so small, but there we go. Yeah, so my favorite one was the one called Champagne, and maybe I used it all up and that's why I can't find it. I'm going to keep looking though. Okay, so what we want to do now is we're going to, let's see, I want to be very sure that I don't mess this up. And I do, if that's still wet. Yeah, so the other thing, I went out of the line a tiny bit there, and if you just have one of those Uniball Signa white pens, you can use it almost like a correction pen and get rid of that. I think I'm just going to use scissors because I'm afraid that I'm going to cut something off that I don't want to cut off. So at least for this one, I'll use scissors. And then for these, I can use the trimmer. Not that it matters too much, because at this point it doesn't have to be neat. And then okay. And I'm actually going to cut off a little piece of this to use as a handle, because the paper handle was kind of floppy. Oh, where's the punch? Here we go. So I don't need a handle over here. Oh, but you know what? Hold the fort. No, I don't want to do that if it's going to be wet though. All right, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to use the crushed curry, which looks a little bit like gold, I think. If my markers weren't over on the other side of the room, I would just pull out a gold Sharpie. I need to rearrange my desk so that the things I need are never on the other side of the room, but all right here. I bought some really cool organizing things from Amazon, and I'll have to find them again and link them because they're actually very cool. I got 4 of them, 2 for here and 2 for Florida. Okay, that's really weird. Comments are coming up like in blue. That's strange. Well, I do apologize for taking so long, but I guess, you know, the stamping, I've been trying to, when I first started doing videos, I tried to make them all 30 minutes. And I actually had some people tell me that I was talking too fast and that it felt like I was rushing. So my choice was to do fewer projects or to do the same amount of projects and go longer. When I started going to an hour, nobody actually complained, so it was hard for me to know, but I just decided for my own sanity, because I haven't had dinner yet, I eat a late dinner anyway, that I would try to do 30 to 40 minutes instead, but so far tonight that's not working. Okay, so we're going to punch. when you're punching, you can't just look at one thing. You have to look kind of at everything. And keep in mind that you might have to trim something, and that's really okay. It's not a big deal. But it's, of course, it's always nicer if you don't have to, because, you know, some people don't like to do the trimming. All right, so that's one. Now I could turn this upside down, only I can't, but I can use the handle on the other side to cut that out. And since the tops are all the same, it doesn't matter if they get mixed up. So what you can do is you squeeze it just a little bit so that it doesn't slip anymore. And then you look at it and decide if it's lined up the way you want it, and then you give it a good squeeze. And I do recommend giving a good squeeze, because if you try to do it too slowly, sometimes the paper gets caught and it tears. All right, so for this one, I need the little handle on the back because there's nothing to hold on to. Okay. So same thing. I'm looking at the lid and looking at the jar and just trying to get it as even as possible. I feel like there's a little bit of extra paper on the bottom of some of these jars, but again, I'm just not sure if that's anything anybody but me notices. Well, Cheryl, you probably notice. Not that you necessarily think it's a bad thing, but people who make cards do tend to notice things. And then if I don't cut straight, then I have to worry, is anybody noticing that it's crooked? So sometimes you just can't win, right? Okay, everything else looks pretty good. This, no, I think that's fine too. All right, so back to the card. So I think maybe since he's the most colorful one, I'm thinking of putting him in the middle. And these really are going to have to be wonky a little bit because they certainly won't fit all lined up in a row. I could glue them all down, or I could pop them all up. And I'm thinking, what's this other long sentiment? May your heart be filled with joy. That's just not going to fit down there. You know, it would be cool to do it in white and emboss it. That would be cool. But I'm not going to make you watch that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that first. All right? Well, maybe not first, but let's just set that there even. I can set it there. And then I'll know that this... Actually, hang on. I'm going to set the stamp there so that I know where I want that to be. And then I can put the jars down. And maybe I'll glue this one down flat and pop the other two up. That's all just like total, you know, whatever pops into your head. You can do this any way you want. Any way you want. Okay, so I'm not going to press it down yet because I don't think it's quite centered. And the only reason I care is because I'm putting these two like this. So I feel like they kind of have to be. Now the lids are going to be a bit of a problem. Although, nope, I guess we'll do that. And then I can get rid of that now. And then this lid will get glued down. And actually what might be a good idea is to glue these on first, and then I can still pop them up the way I did with the other one, but just have it all one piece to start with. Might just make it a tiny bit easier. So we'll do that. And sometimes when you're gluing something like this using just a really thin bead and you are planning on popping it up, except don't put the glue on the wrong side. It's a good idea maybe to put a piece of tape on the back just to make sure it stays on. The glue is strong, it really is, but when it's sort of hanging off the edge like that, you know, something could happen getting put in or taken out of the envelope. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little piece of tape on the back to hold that, and it'll cover up my little glue oops too. Okay. That's going to hang over the edge. Let's move that in a little bit. Probably don't need all of those, but sometimes it's just kind of one of those better safe than sorry things. All right, and then my little Teflon scissors, just to get another itty bitty piece for each one to go on the lid, on the handle, the knob, whatever you call it. Okay. There. Anybody start their Christmas shopping yet? My family and I started using an app called Giftster, Giftster, and I'm really liking it. I had a different one that I used just for myself for keeping track of things, but this way they can post things that they want. Everybody knows they're probably going to get some surprises because I don't want to know everything that I'm getting. And I always tell people I may put a lot of things on there because you can pick and choose. I don't expect to get all of them. It's just that way there'll be some surprises too. And when you purchase it, you can mark it purchased so that the other people can see that you purchased it, but the person whose list it is, so the person that you're buying for cannot see that it's been purchased or who has purchased it. It's very cool. I'm liking it a lot. We've been using it for a few years now, and it's very helpful. You can also reserve something. So like maybe you haven't quite decided if you want to buy it yet or not, but you're pretty sure you're going to buy it. So you reserve it, then nobody else buys it. And then if you change your mind, you just unreserve it. And that's fine too. And then somebody else can see it and they can buy it. Okay, yeah, that should have gone over a little bit more to the other side, huh? But it is glued down now, so that's not happening. And then here, I'm going to use this sentiment and I'm going to emboss it in white, and I think that'll look really sharp there. And then I'll put a liner on the inside and probably a Merry Christmas, because this is pretty darn Christmassy. All right, so where's my other project? Here it is. So today, just one card and a tag. And like I said, I hope to be selling some tags like this and some other types of tags as well. We've got lots of we used to have things called tag punches and things like that. So I'm going to use a bunch of old stuff too. Maybe some new stamps, but old tags, just so they're not all the same. But wouldn't you love to see that hanging on your Christmas present? Wouldn't that be nice? And then they can write who it's to and from on the back. I think on one of the ones I did last week, I actually put a piece of white on the back, but that's because it was black. I think you can write on this and people could see it. So thank you very much for joining me. Again, Adam, nice talking to you again or seeing you again. Thanks for stopping in, and I will see you 1 week from tonight. Take care. Have a great night.